Welcome to another video that's looking at finding the exact values of trig functions or circular functions. So for part A, we want to find the exact value of sine of 300 degrees. So once again, we start with unit circles as our basic setup and diagrams. And then what we want to do is we want to find the angle of 300 degrees inside a unit circle. So we're going to measure that anti-clockwise from the positive x-axis. So 300 degrees is going to be all the way around in this fourth quadrant, and it's going to be 60 degrees back from 360. So that means that our angle is going to be somewhere around here. So measuring from here around to there, that is going to be 300 degrees. Another useful thing to think about is that that is 60 degrees back from 360. Now, when we're finding the exact value of sine, we want it read off the y-axis. So that's the value that's just down here. So remembering our pattern, it goes root 1 on 2, root 2 on 2, root 3 on 2. So this, being 60 degrees back from the horizontal line, or the x-axis, actually gives us the largest y value. So for sine of 300, that would equal, and the value that we're interested in is root 3 on 2. And because it's off the y-axis, we can see that this value here would be negative. So the answer is going to be negative root 3 over 2. For part B, we have cosine of 315 degrees. So 315 degrees is also in the fourth quadrant, and it is 45 degrees back from the horizontal line. So from here to here is 315 degrees. And another way of thinking about that angle is that it's 45 degrees back from the x-axis. So then we want to think about, for cosine, what the value is. So it's going to be read off the x-axis. So it's going to have a value just here. And if we think about our pattern, it goes root 1 on 2, root 2 on 2, root 3 on 2. And 45 degrees for both sine and cosine takes us to the middle exact value of root 2 on 2. So checking out the axes that we're reading it off, it's also positive. So the answer is positive root 2 on 2 for this question. For part C, we're now going to start looking at negative angles. So we want the exact value of sine of negative 150 degrees. So if we were to go backwards around this unit circle, we'd start here technically at 0 degrees, and we'd go back to negative 90 degrees here, and negative 180 degrees would be back as a straight line. So being negative 150 degrees, we'd be going so that we'd have an angle that's about here. So this would be negative 150 degrees, which is 30 degrees, just out of interest's sake, from the x-axis or the horizontal axis. So for sine, what we know there is that if we're at this point, we want to know its y value, which is this position here on the y-axis. And that there corresponds to root 1 on 2. This would be root 2 on 2, and this would be root 3 on 2. So our exact value is going to be negative because we're in the negative y direction here. And the answer is going to be that this is equal to negative root 1 on 2, which is simply negative 1/2. So that's the exact value for sine of negative 150 degrees. For part D, we're going to have another negative angle, this time negative 225 degrees, and we're after the exact value for cosine of negative 225. So thinking again to what we were talking about here, we'd have 0 degrees, negative 90, negative 180, and then we need to go another 45 degrees to get to negative 225. So that would give us this position in the unit circle. Where measuring backwards, we would have that this angle here is going to be negative 225 degrees. And that means that we're 45 degrees further around in the backwards direction than 180. So that puts us at this position on the unit circle. And for cosine, we want to read the x value there. So we go down here. And our pattern says it would be something like root 1 on 2, root 2 on 2, root 3 on 2. So 45 takes us to the middle exact value, which is root 2 on 2, and we're on the negative side of the x-axis. So the answer to this question is negative root 2 over 2. So once again, I hope this video has helped with questions like this, where we're trying to find exact values for sine and cos. And if you need extra help on this, there's other videos available for you to go and watch.